From the far reaches of the universe to Radio City Music Hall, magic and fantasy come to life in the ultimate family adventure. The Masters of the Universe. Our tour. See He-Man and She-Ra. Meet the forces of Skeletor and Hordak. Will Jim prevail? See the exciting jet skate competition. See the spectacular Eternian Circus theatrical celebration. Opening live at Radio City Music Hall February 12th. The Masters of the Universe.
Fire, you gotta win it in the fire. You gotta win it in the fire. You gotta win it in the fire. Yes, it's getting hard. We're only heating up. First, you got to win it before you can stop. Fire. You gotta win it in the fire. You gotta win it in the fire. You gotta win it in the crossfire.
Crossfire. You gotta win it in the crossfire from Milton Bradley.
This is Epcot Center. Epcot Center. There's nowhere else like it in the world.
For a free color magazine, call 1-800-55-EPCOT.
Nobody beats G.I. Joe. G.I. Joe, rolling thunder.
It's the incredible G.I. Joe Rolling Thunder.
Globe is running scared, starting to wonder. Can he survive the rolling thunder?
Yo, Joe!
Nobody beats G.I. Joe. G.I. Joe, rolling thunder. Machine gun cannon and a rocket tower. Rolling thunder is an awesome power. Nobody beats G.I. Joe, a real American hero.
Rolling Thunder comes with driver, other vehicles, and figures sold separately.
It's Dizzy Dinosaur! Dizzy Dinosaur knocks you out as he moves about. Dizzy Dinosaur, he's real nice till you roll the dice. Dizzy Dinosaur, yeah, he's a silly beast to say the least. He got me, he got you, not me. Dizzy Dinosaur, be lucky and smart or it's back to start. Dizzy Dinosaur, turns and spins. Still someone wins. Yeah. Dizzy Dinosaur from Pressman.
I keep on dancing and falling, dancing on a crazy right now. Shake it, baby. Come on, show me how you work. Now you're in motion, dancing on a good locomotion, yeah.
Little boppers from Worlds of Wonder. Pop till you drop.
Oh, your mom makes you stop.
And watch out for those monster boppers.
United 6, the Beastmaster. Everything he loved, they had taken. Now he would battle the forces of evil. One man facing the unknown, the power, the magic, a deadly challenge. Tonight! A legendary display of courage. Mark Singer and Tanya Roberts in a fantastic adventure. The Beastmaster, tonight at 6, here on Channel 5.
Richard Pryor's in the money.
I think I just inherited $30 million.
And out of his mind.
You know what I mean?
But ready to share his fortune.
Anybody want to go to lunch?
With right-hand man, John Candy. They're on an impossible, ridiculous mission. Blow $30 million in 30 days. You don't have to be crazy, but it helps. Brewster's Millions, Wednesday at 8, right here on Channel 5.
Jump is back! We'll stop Cobra with Tiger Force, the roughest, toughest jump force ever. Get those captured Cobra vehicles repainted and re-armed. They're part of Tiger Force now.
Tiger Force, showing the colors, yellow and black. Hungry to fight and ready to attack. Nobody beats G.I. Joe.
Tiger Shark is best. So's the Tiger Cat. Tiger Force attack.
Nobody beats G.I. Joe. Tiger Force.
Tiger Force. Vehicles and figures sold separately.
The Big Apple, fastest city on earth. We're here to introduce something new. Oatmeal crisp with apples. With so much to savor, no one can rush through a bowl. crispy pieces of real apple and a touch of cinnamon. Plus big flakes bursting with hearty oatmeal. Baked to a brown sugar crunch. A Big Apple tastes so new, everyone's taking their sweet time. New oatmeal crisp with apples. The taste that refuses to be rushed.
Fisher-Price Dino Roars. They're a scream.
Being a cop has been called the toughest job in America. Tonight, we'll prove it. On a full hour of Cops. Then, a trip to the zoo turns into terror when a child falls into a compound full of wild gorillas. A boating accident leaves 2 people trapped in icy floodwaters. But when rescuers move in, they become victims too. It's a life and death emergency on Code 3 after Cops tonight on Fox.
Honey? Can I ask you something? Did you lose weight?
Tab, it's a whole different kind of taste and 1 calorie you don't have to worry about. Tab, hooray.
Come on along, I'll take you to the lullaby of Broadway. Hickory and Ballyhoo.
The lullaby of Broadway.
And in the center of it all,
In the Milford Plaza.
Stay at the Milford Plaza Hotel with cocktail dinner and breakfast for $46 per person. Discover why we are the lullaby of Broadway.
the Milford Plaza is the lullaby of Broadway.
Recordings just got better. Hey, it's Dana from StreamYard. I'm so excited to announce that local recordings are now available on StreamYard.
That pink 2-wheeler, please, for this Toys R Us kid. If I could only have it, there'd be so much I could do. Go shopping for mom, nail letters for dad. A paper route would be so cool I'd follow every traffic law. And then a big race, I bet I could win. Oh wow, I'll learn to ride it. Soon as mom and dad show me how.
Toys R Us. You'll never outgrow us.
The players are taking the field for
Frog Soccer.
And the ball's in play.
Terrific.
Slam it in! Win, win!
A scissor kick. He scores! The ball is bouncing.
From frog to frog to frog to frog.
He's leaping for it.
Perfect.
It takes fancy frog work.
Amazing.
Hot shot, hot shot.
We have a new champion. Frog Soccer. What a game!
Surprise, surprise, puppy surprise. How many puppies are there inside? There could be 3 or 4 or 5.
Puppy Surprise comes with 3, 4, or 5 puppies. 1 in 4 mommy dogs comes with 4 or 5.
Welcome, everyone. Happy Friday. I hope everybody's doing very well, and I hope everybody has plans to do something fun this evening besides hang out with me for a little while. So before I get into everything, I want to go ahead and say that the subject matter is just bound to go in a certain direction here tonight. Because I mean, there's no way for it not to, pretty much. And I'd like to think that we're all adults here. I know that a lot of us have our strong opinions. We have our strong opinions on the Second Amendment. We also have our strong opinions on gun control. And these things are issues that no matter what, we all think we're right. And all points, no matter which side you lean towards, they're welcome in the chat as long as they're respectful towards one another. So, just try to be empathetic. You might have somebody who lost somebody from gun violence, who feels very strongly about guns. You might have somebody in the chat who actually lost somebody because they feel that having a gun could have probably saved them. So understand there's always another side to a coin. And there's a lot of strong opinions. So let's try to respect everyone's opinion, and don't get butthurt just because somebody made a point that you can't argue with either, because that may happen. It doesn't matter what you believe or what you feel strongly about. So, this was a big deal to me because this issue with Alec Baldwin, what I'm going to go ahead and do is I'm going to read the search warrant from complaint and information, I guess, would be oh no, that's the Letitia thing. I'll go over that later. Could have sworn that I forwarded it. Here we go. Got it right here. Okay, so yeah, this is the search warrant for Alec Baldwin's cell phone. And I do believe they go into a little detail as to what they know of the case. And yeah, we've got that right here. So you're welcome, Tatted Jedi. No, not that one. Let's try something else here. All right. So this is basically his search warrant. I'm just going to share the investigation, starting from where the investigation conducted, so we get a little more insight on the facts of the case. So, or at least according to the law enforcement investigation. Now, I won't be able to see the chat, so I apologize for that. So it says here, investigation conducted on Thursday, November 21st, 2021. Santa Fe RECC received a call at 545 Bonanza Creek Road in Santa Fe County in reference to a multiple victims with a gunshot wound. This criminal investigation division responded to the incident a short time later. The initial call came in at approximately 1:48 p.m. to SFRECC, Santa Fe Regional Communication Center. An individual by the name of Mammy Mitchell called 911. While listening to the 911 call, Mammy advises they need an ambulance at Bonanza Creek Ranch due to 2 people being shot on a movie set accidentally. The dispatcher then transfers Mammy over to medical dispatch. Mammy again advises the medical dispatcher help is needed immediately due to the people being shot by a quote-unquote prop gun. It's not a prop gun if it's got live rounds. I'll tell you that right now. Santa Fe County deputies responded to, well, let me actually be a little more clear about that. Is it a prop in the sense that it's anything that's being used in a movie and an animate object used in the filming of a movie is technically a prop, but this particular prop was a lethal weapon. It was a loaded gun with a live round in it, with 2 live rounds. Santa Fe County deputies responded to the scene and advised there was 1 female with a gunshot wound to the chest and a male with a gunshot wound to the stomach / shoulder and shoulder. The female identified as Helena Hutchins was transported to the University of New Mexico Hospital in Albuquerque by care flight. The male identified as Joel Souza was transported to St. Vincent Hospital in Santa Fe by Santa Fe County medics while the affiant was conducting interviews at the Santa Fe County Sheriff's Office. It was discovered. What in the hell? Okay. It was discovered Halia passed away at UNMH due to her injuries. The affiant interviewed multiple people in reference to the incident to include the armorer, Hannah Gutierrez Reed, the gun handler, Alec Baldwin, and the assistant director, David Halls. The set of Rust began filming in October 6, 2021. Okay, so the armorer being Hannah Gutierrez Reed would be the person who apparently told Alec that the gun was cold. During Hannah's interview, she said the morning of the incident, which was on the 21st of October, she got to work and got the guns out. She advised her coworker, Sarah Zachary, helped her out with the morning tasks. Hannah advised after they retrieved the guns, they took them to set. Hannah said while on set, she dummied the guns up with dummy rounds. Hannah stated they got on set around 7:30 a.m., but didn't dummy the gun up until a short time before lunch. Hannah advised when they all returned from lunch, Sarah pulled the gun out of the safe, the gun utilized by Alec, and handed it to her. The affiant asked Hannah if she loaded the gun after lunch, to which she stated it was already loaded before they went to lunch. Hannah advised, we had the gun the whole time before that, and nothing happened. And I wasn't in there, and they weren't even supposed to be pulling the hammer back. Affiant asked Hannah to clarify where the guns were located before lunch, to which she responded they were inside with the camera crew, and she was hardly allowed inside due to COVID precautions. Hannah advised she handed the gun to Alec Baldwin a couple times in the morning inside the set. Hannah said at one point David Halls had the gun when he was sitting in for the shot. She advised she handed the gun off to Dave while he was sitting in, and this handoff occurred after lunch. The affiant asked Hannah when the last time she loaded the gun was, and she advised she loaded the gun with 5 dummy rounds before lunch. Hannah stated there was 1 round that wouldn't go in So after lunch, she took the cleaner, cleaned it out, and put another round in, which brought the total to 6 rounds loaded in the weapon. Hannah described the gun to be long barrel Colt 45 caliber. Hannah advised they all went to lunch at 12:30 p.m. and after they came back, she and Sarah took the guns to the set. She said the guns were all in bags at this point and described the bags to look like socks. She stated the guns were checked on set. However, she didn't reality sorry, this very small print and I can't expand it. So sorry about that. However, she didn't really check it too much, the firearm, due to it being locked up at lunch. Hannah said she did the check. She put in the last round. Hannah advised a short time later she remembered she could hear the gunshot, then heard people calling for a medic emergency. Hannah said she looked in to see Joel Salza on the ground and asked if it was the gun, to which Dave responded it was the gun that went off. Hannah said when she checked the gun after the incident, she checked the cartridge, which could have been the one fired, and said the first one she pulled out didn't have that pointing to the projectile end of the bullet. Hannah said she checked all the other rounds, and they all had the ringing sound when she shook them, or a hole in the side, indicating it was a dummy round. Hannah advised the box of dummies may have some wonky rounds, and they received the box approximately a week ago from Seth Kenny, her supplier. Hannah made a statement that she did not believe anyone on the film set would be that malicious to bring live ammo onto the set. Hannah confirmed when she was handed the gun after the incident, she was the only one to manipulate it, and it was closed when it was handed to her. Alec Baldwin was brought into the interview room at approximately 5:12 p.m. He was advised of his Miranda rights and agreed to speak with detectives. Alec advised in the scene, he slowly takes the gun out of the holster, then very dramatically turns it and cocks the hammer, which is when the gun goes off. He said it was supposed to be a cold gun, so no flash charge or anything should have gone off. Alec said all the rounds in the gun were supposed to be cosmetic or dummy rounds. Alec advised when the gun went off, he could recall Helena Hutchins going down to the ground and Joel Salsa start to scream. Alec said since they were in rehearsal, he assured he had an empty gun. Therefore, when he shot the gun, Helena was right in front of him. Alec described the gun to be a period Colt. He said there were emails transferred back and forth between Hannah and him where she showed him different styles of guns. He said he requested a bigger gun, and she also showed him different styles of knives for the production. Alec was shown a Colt with a brown handle and a cherry handle, and he ultimately chose the one with the brown handle. In a brief search of Helena Hutchins' phone, Affiant discovered conversations about the Rust production dating back to July 14th, 2021. Affiant also discovered photographs of receipts in the phone dating back to December 7th, 2021, showing various receipts of businesses in Santa Fe. Affiant believes gathering information prior to the film start date of Rust is essential for a full investigation. Affiant requested Alec's phone from him, as well as his attorney, and was instructed to acquire a warrant. Alec Baldwin was contacted Affiant numerous times through phone calls and text messages using the number listed. Therefore, Affiant believes this is to be the phone number Alec uses on a regular basis. Affiant is aware of the entire cellular phone number, however, has redacted the beginning of the number for confidentiality and privacy of the individual. Affiant also believes the phone is an Apple iPhone due to the text messages received between defendant and Affiant being iMessages, which is typical of any Apple device. Affiant is requesting a warrant for the seizure and search of Alec Baldwin's cell phone to search for any evidence relating to the death investigation of Helena Hutchins. Affiant believes there may be evidence on the phone due to the individuals using cellular phones during and or after the commission of the crime. So such information, if it exists, may be material and relevant to this investigation. Affiant was also made aware there were several emails and text messages sent and received regarding the movie production Rust in the course of interviews. Affiant has not included every fact related to this investigation, but has included only those facts Affiant believes are necessary to establish probable cause for the issuance of a search warrant for the above-mentioned device. And then this just goes through some legal jargon as far as what the warrant should and couldn't do and blah, blah, blah. So I'm not too interested in that. So what I was really hoping to read there was actually the particular scenario of what took place. Because the way he made it sound was he was rehearsing a scene. You know? So, I mean, if you're rehearsing a scene, well, I mean, yeah, I don't know. Let's move on, because what I'm going to do is I'm going to play an ABC News interview with Alec Baldwin. And just to get an idea of where Alec Baldwin's head was at just a few months ago when he did this interview. Well, actually, it was a year ago. So...
Marker, good.
Great.
More.
Alec, thank you for doing this. You haven't said much in public since that tragic accident. Why speak out now?
Well, I think that there's a criminal investigation. That could be a while. There's all kinds of civil litigation. And I felt there were a number of misconceptions, most of it from sources I really wouldn't concern myself about.
Now, I haven't watched this in its entirety. I want to be clear. I'm actually an Alec Baldwin fan, okay? I like all the Baldwin brothers. I think there's some that are more talented than others. But I am a big I'm a big Stephen Baldwin fan too, but I'm a big Alec Baldwin fan. And I can't think of one role that he ever played that I didn't like, if I'm being completely honest. I know that he leans a different direction than I do politically on a lot of things. That to me doesn't matter when I actually like someone's work and I like someone's art. I don't think how he feels politically means anything to me as far as the art that I enjoy. So I just don't really care. I'm not going to boycott somebody's movies because I don't agree with what they believe in necessarily. If I like the movies and they acted well, I'm going to support it. Now, I mean, you know, one of my favorite movies of his, believe it or not, is The Getaway, the remake, the remake of the Steve McQueen movie. I thought he was great in that. I thought him and his wife at the time, Kim Basinger, just made a great couple, and it was just a fun movie. And James Woods was a fantastic villain, and I just still to this day really like that movie. So it bothers me to see something like this happen. But again, I have to know the circumstances of exactly what happened, which I'm hoping that he'll go over here. This is about a 15-minute interview.
But a couple that I did concern myself about were there were these authoritative statements about this is what happened. The sheriff's department hasn't even released a report to the DA yet. the reason I wanted to sit down with you is because I really feel like I can't wait for that process to end in February, March. I mean, I'm not asking them to speed it up for my benefit. That's ridiculous. But I am saying that they're going to.
Now, there's, I don't think that that's necessarily true. I think it is for his benefit, but that's okay. You know, like he shot somebody. He shot somebody for real. This guy has done a lot of movies. Now, this is the thing about Alec Baldwin. This is where this live stream is going to start to take a hard left. No pun intended. Because it's not not politically speaking, it's not going to take a hard left. It's just figuratively speaking, it's going to take a hard left turn. And the thing about Alec Baldwin is he is a very, very loud anti-gun liberal, from what I understand. And you can't I find some hypocrisy in being this person and at the very least not practicing, because I understand some people are like, okay, well, if you're so anti-gun, why do you do movies that have guns in them? Well, you know, the moral of the movie may have something to do with guns not being a good thing. You don't know. Have you ever read the script for Rust? I have not. We'd have to know what happens in that movie. Maybe the movie's about guns being bad. Who knows? But yes, and I've seen him. He's kind of a dick. I think he drinks a lot. He definitely is looking like he woke up very early after a long night in this interview. I think he's definitely somebody who you know, I don't know this for a fact, but he seems like the kind of man who likes the drink. And paparazzi tends to catch him early in the morning when he's hungover, and it never really goes well for them. Now, my whole thing with the whole being so anti-gun, like I said, people may be thinking, well, why does he do movies with guns if he's so anti-guns? Like I said, you don't really know the circumstances, and you know what, man, a job is a job. But you're not wrong to see the hypocrisy in that. It's just not something that I really give a shit about. But what I do care about is if you are a Hollywood actor and for whatever reasons you justify doing movies where guns are being used by the characters, it's an action movie or whatever, and you're so anti-gun, but yet you still do these movies, well, the least you can do, and I mean the very least that you can do, is practice trigger discipline, take proper training. Anybody who handles guns will tell you that whatever happened on that set should not have happened. Not just because the live round should have never shown up. You always assume that a live round, this is the way that anybody who is actually pro guns thinks. Okay? Anybody who is Second Amendment, just wild about their Second Amendment and love their gun rights, anybody who feels this way will tell you that you would always assume, always handle a gun as though a live round actually got in there. So all this blame on the handler and all, now the handler is also being blamed too. The handler is also being charged. He's not the only one being charged. So there's a lot of people going, why is it the handler charged? Well, the handler is charged. Okay. That person definitely has some accountability, but he's the one that handled the gun and pulled the trigger. He pointed it at another human being, pulled the trigger, and they lost their life. That is a fact. Okay? So I'm going to move on with the interview, but I just want to make that abundantly clear. At the end of the day, this is somebody who is anti-gun, yet use the gun. All of the evidence dictates that he, and the fact that there's somebody dead, this dictates that this gun was handled irresponsibly.
They're going to do what they need to do. And I wanted to come to talk to you to say that I would go to any lengths to undo what happened. I would go to any lengths to undo.
And I believe
I think
that.
the big question, and the one you must have asked yourself
I mean,
1,000 times.
A lot of people are like, he's a sociopath and a narcissist and blah, 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 blah. Yeah, I'm not going to throw that kind of shit at Alec Baldwin, man. I'm not going to do that. Not me anyway. You know, the thing is he's a Hollywood actor. Of course he's a fucking narcissist to some degree. You know what I mean? He's a Hollywood actor. He's got the whole world. He's surrounded himself with people who are kissing his ass at all times. That's gonna get to your head. It's gonna happen. And it's and when everything is all about you, well, guess what? Things are gonna be all about me in your world. It's gonna happen. There's no way to avoid that to some degree. It's just a question of how well you handle it. But it's gonna resonate in his personality from time to time. And of course, he's feeling selfish and he's worried about his career. He's worried whether or not he's going to go to jail. I promise you, if I committed a crime, if I committed a murder and it was completely unintentional, I'd be more scared of going to jail under those circumstances than be scared of going to jail if it was intentional. So I don't blame him for being scared out of his mind and being very worried about himself. I honestly don't blame him.
How could this have happened?
Well, there's two things I want to say about that. One is that when I talk about this, my concern is that I don't sound like I'm the victim. Because there is a victim. There's a woman who died, and my friend got shot. He's my friend. And she was a new friend. I met her.
You
We
shot him,
worked
though.
together on some of the mapping out of what we're going to do on the film, which, in the movie terms, if you go make a movie with Scorsese, you and the DP don't sit down and they solicit your ideas of how to make the film. You know what I mean?
Now, also keep in mind, folks, that he has a publicist. He has people all around him that are telling him what's okay to say on TV and what isn't. He's been coached, he's been drilled with information on what to say and what not to say and how to say it. I promise you that. This guy is a Hollywood personality. That's his job. He is a public figure. So if he comes off as being phony, it's not 100% on him that he's being phony. He has people telling him to be phony if he ever wants to work in that town ever again, and if he wants to stay out of prison.
In the case of Helena, we sat down collaboratively and talked a lot about what we wanted to do in that a precious amount of time we had. But I want to make sure that I don't come across like I'm the victim, because we have two victims here. And the second thing is that all of what happened on that day leading up to this event was precipitated on one idea, and that is that Helena and I had something profound in common. And that is we both assumed the gun was empty, other than those, dummy rounds.
I want to get into more detail on the day in a minute, but let's take a step back. What was it that drew you to this project in the first place, to Rust?
I'd worked on a project with Joel before.
Joel Souza, the director.
Right. He did this movie, Crown Vic, that I produced. And Joel and I stayed in touch. We're friends, and I loved Rust. He said, I want to send you this. And I read it, and I said, I love it. I love it.
Rust, a low-budget Western, tells the story of an aging outlaw on the run with his young grandson. Baldwin, the film's star.
Now, I like low-budget Westerns. I do like low-budget Westerns, and I like Alec Baldwin. And when I heard this movie was being made, I was excited about it. Usually when larger actors do low-budget films, it's because they really like it. And I just like to see the artistic side of actors that I really like, or directors that I really like, because I like to see what they're into. Sometimes they do movies that are just because they're going to be fun to make. And I always enjoy watching those types of movies.
Star is also one of the producers.
Very excited Very, very, so excited that we finally got this made, because every independent film has many false starts. You know what I mean? And when it finally goes, you feel like a plane. When you finally get some lift under your wings, it's very, very gratifying. I am a purely creative producer. My authorities as a producer are casting and script, which are actually married to the role of being a lead actor in a film.
So you're not the kind of producer who's looking at the line item of each budget.
No. There are basically two types of producers who are really in charge of production: people that raise the money, and the people who spend the money. My consultations or approvals were completely about casting and about the script. I don't hire anybody in the crew.
Not even the cinematographer, no one.
No, but he will apprise me of what he's doing. And he'll say to me, I got Helena Hutchins to be the DP. I said, how do you feel about that? Are you excited? I'm very excited. She's wonderful.
What did you know about Helena?
No, I don't
Hutchins before
know.
she started working on
I
this?
don't know too much. I'm pretty sure the way that I understand it, I could be wrong, is that the executive producer is the one who raises the money, who puts up the money, and the producers are the ones who spend it. So yeah. So when you see that, at least that's what I think the difference is. When you see in credits executive producer and then produce by, you're like, aren't those the same thing? Well, not exactly. But they all matter.
Nothing about her until
they all mean money.
Joel said to me, I got her. She was fantastic.
Helena Hutchins, the talented cinematographer praised by many in the industry, was a trailblazer in the field historically dominated by men.
Make sure we don't see people walking around.
She was really pretty.
The Ukrainian-born cinematographer quickly gelled with Baldwin.
The people who watched The Daily said that her work was beautiful. She was someone who was loved by everyone who worked with and liked by everyone who worked with and admired.
Now, do I think that his people told him that it wouldn't hurt to cry during this interview? Yeah, I do. I do think that. I'm just being honest, folks. Now, do I feel that his tears are genuine? Do I feel like he doesn't care? No, I don't feel that way. But do I feel like, see, I think that there's a middle ground, because people are like, oh my God, he's an actor, you know, like, he's an actor. This is just all a big show and blah, blah, blah. Well, yeah, it is. I'm with you. It is. But I also I'm not convinced that he genuinely doesn't care either. You know, I mean, you don't know how much he's sitting around crying at night. He's shot and killed somebody, you know, like accidentally. That's got to be some shitty stuff to live with. Sorry, give me 1 second. So yeah, I could see people are like, I'm just saying, is this a show right here? Yeah. Yeah, I think it is. But does that mean that he doesn't actually care? No, not necessarily. But dude, this is one of those times where, if you pardon my expression,
but admired by everybody who
sorry, give me 1 second.
Who worked with her.
This is one of those times where, if you pardon my expression, you just bite the bullet, okay? You don't listen to the people that are around you telling you what to say, except for your lawyer. The only person you listen to in a situation like that is your lawyer, because right now the public needs to see you be genuine. The public needs to see you be the real Alec Baldwin and not Hollywood Alec Baldwin. That's the big problem here, is that you're Hollywood Alec Baldwin, and people don't want to see a Hollywood Alec Baldwin right now. They want to see an empathetic person who is genuinely sorry for what happened. Your fans, the ones who love you and support you, want to see a genuine Alec Baldwin who's genuinely sorry about what had happened. But that's not what we're seeing right now.
Rust's 21-day production began filming on October 6th at the Bonanza Creek Ranch, just outside Santa Fe, New Mexico. The ranch has long been a favorite location for filming Westerns.
Yeah, 310 to you,
place to lay low.
The Ballad of
Things
Buster
have a way of
Scruggs.
escalating out here in the West, but one thing leading to another.
The day that I flew there, they'd been shooting for a week already. I come the following week on the 11th. That night of the 11th, I had dinner with Helena and Joel, and we talked about some of the compositions I was thinking of to.
That was the first time you met?
First time I met Helena, yeah.
What was your first impression?
When I met her, I knew she had that spark. I knew she had that flint to her, that she was going to get that day's work done and get the shots that she wanted. She was very focused.
She had a vision for the
She
film?
was very focused. We had a discussion about compositions of shots in which you were shooting these beautiful tableaus of the West. She had that intensity. Every day you went to work, she would say, "Good morning, how are you? How was your evening?" Boom, it was small talk, go. We weren't going to hang out and chit chat or whatever. She knew that the clock was the enemy and we have to move forward.
Once on set, Baldwin posts this video.
I want to say, I look at myself in the reflection of this and I'm really kind of appalled. It's appalling. We're here shooting the film to start tomorrow. And no, I'm not playing Santa Claus. On the 12th, I had a safety demonstration with Hannah Reed, the armorer.
24-year-old Hannah Gutierrez Reed, seen here in photos by thedailymail.com, was hired as the film's armorer, in charge of all weapons on set. The daughter of a famous Hollywood armorer, Rust was only her second film in this role. She spoke to the Voices of the West podcast about working as lead armorer for her first film before Rust.
I was really nervous about it at first, and I almost didn't take the job because I wasn't sure if I was ready, but doing it, it went really smoothly.
We spent an hour and a half shooting the pistol.
Totally.
Giving me all her safety instructions.
Did you think she was up to the job?
I assumed because she was there and she was hired, she was up for the job.
Yeah, good point. I mean, yeah. That means that he's not sitting there worried about whether the arm, it's not his job. Well, actually, it kind of is. Now, let me take that back. Because I was about to be like, well, he's the star of the movie. So it's not really his job to worry about. That's somebody else's job to worry about whether the armory person is qualified. But he's probably not the person who hired her. But he is a producer, and that does make him to some degree accountable for the people on set. I would think so. Now, I don't necessarily know how the chain of command actually works on a movie set, but I would assume that he's to some degree accountable. But I also understand that he's probably thinking that it's someone else's job, because it probably is directly someone else's job to make sure that this person is qualified for such a dangerous job. He's probably simply, in all the different movies that he's done using a gun, he's probably never been real tight with the person that's in charge of the guns. You know what I mean? But apparently, according to that search warrant, affidavit, he and her were text messaging quite a bit in regards to the guns. So that's, so it could be argued that he is somewhat accountable for her being qualified or unqualified
for the job.
And nothing she did raised any red flags with you?
No.
Okay. This training course you do, what did she tell you?
She said things like, remember, this is a blank round, so you have to create the discharge yourself because there's no projectile. So if you shot the gun, you go bang. When you roll the camera, you got to go bang and have the gun snap back. You have to create that. She would give you little tips about firing, and she'd say to you, when we're done, point the gun down. When we're done, you give the gun to me or to Halls, only those two people.
Dave Halls was Rust's assistant director, also known as the first AD. seen here in this IMDb photo. He was responsible for keeping the production on schedule.
Sometimes we would be on a set that was a very, very cramped set, and they wanted people in that room on an as-needed basis. If I'm holding the gun and they say cut, I then hand the gun to Halls if she's not there.
Yeah, why Hall's not Hannah? Some people have said that only the armorer should be handling
No. That's inaccurate. Meaning in the protocols of the business. Meaning Hannah would to hand me the gun 99% of the time. Whatever the preponderance of the time. But when we would say cut, if Hannah was away from the set, I would hand Halls the gun.
Hannah Gutierrez Reed had a dual role on set, armorer, and she was also the assistant prop master for the film. One of the things her attorney has said is that she was hired for 2 positions on the film and therefore was stretched in an inappropriate way. Did she raise any of those concerns with you?
No, I assume that everyone who's shooting a lower budget film is stretched, myself included. And I got no complaints from her or the prop department. I'm not sitting there when I'm getting dressed and ready to go do a scene saying, oh my God, the prop woman seemed very harried today. I didn't get a sense of that from any of the people on the
Right.
film. The first time I heard that there was any...
See, I think... I have to think, I wonder... Like, let's look at a very far right-wing director, like, say, Clint Eastwood. Okay, Clint Eastwood has, throughout his entire career, long before I was even born. Okay, and I'm pushing half a century of being on this earth in just a few years. So, you know, long before I was even born, Clint Eastwood was working with guns on sets like that. And I wonder if he has a policy on his sets to where there is gun discipline, trigger discipline, all of these things, gun safety precautions. Is there somebody to make sure that everyone understands gun safety before they start filming? Because I feel that should be standard. I absolutely feel that should be standard on any movie set. You're going to have people that have not ever worked on a movie before. You're going to have people that have never worked with guns on a movie before. You're going to have people on that movie set that have never touched a gun before. So there should always be somebody experienced to teach gun safety before handing someone an actual real gun. It doesn't matter if it should have dummy rounds in it or not.
Was any problem with anybody in the crew of the film was when Luber said, well, we have some issues here.
Lane Looper, the first camera assistant, would email production managers a resignation letter later that night, citing safety concerns. Quote, during the filming of gunfights on this job, things are often played very fast and loose. So far, there have been 2 accidental weapons discharges.
Wow.
He also wrote about concerns about reasonable rest and housing for local crew with long commutes to the set.
When he quit, now the day before that happened, we wrapped. And he came up to me and he said, thank you for the position you've taken on behalf of IATSE and the union on social media. I said, my pleasure.
This photo, posted by Helena, showed the cast and crew in solidarity with IATSE, the International Alliance of Theatrical Stage Employees, which had been on the verge of a strike. And Alec posted this on Instagram.
And I want to say to the people in IATSE, do what you need to do. You want to go on strike? Go on strike. Because I'll tell you something about the executives. They don't give a about you. He said, because we have some issues here. I said, such as? And he said, my men need a better hotel room. There was no mention of safety issues.
He didn't say anything about the accidental discharges on set?
He didn't say anything about anything else. He goes, my men need better hotel rooms. I said, well, we're leaving, we're wrapping. Will you be here tomorrow? He said, yes.
See, I wonder how much of a problem this usually is. Did this problem just come about now? What, because there was an incident where somebody had to get hurt and worse? I mean, is this a common problem on movie sets? And Is it just been a matter of time before somebody ends up getting shot and killed by accident?
Because what I was about to do, which I've done on any number of films and TV projects, was to give more of my salary back to the production to pay for X. And I was about to say to him, let me know what it would be to B&B you guys in a house that's closer to how we can address your problem. I will be happy to contribute to that. The next day they were.
See, this is fluff. That's all this is right here. What this is right here is just Alec Baldwin stroking himself at look at how supportive I was to everybody on the set, and all of the people that were being mistreated. I stuck up for them, and I took up for them on social media, and I spoke up, and blah 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 blah. Yes, Cherry, that is how Brandon Lee died on the set of The Crow.
Day they were gone.
So you had no sense from anyone on the set that people had been stretched to the point where safety was compromised?
No. I never heard one word about that. None.
Russ,
yeah,
producers
but wouldn't
told
you?
ABC News,
Shouldn't that be the main concern? You know what I mean? Like, shouldn't that be the main concern? He's like, I didn't know that the issues on set were being stretched so thin to where safety was being compromised. Well, wouldn't the concern be that if things are not running well on the set, is this going to cause a safety issue? Do we need to? I mean, even if you don't care about people getting hurt, other than, I mean, if you're just business savvy and that's it, you're going to worry about litigation too. So you're going to want to, if you're not worried about people's safety for the reasons of because you care about people and don't want them to get hurt because you're a caring person, you're either going to think of it that way, or you're going to care about people being hurt so that they don't take legal action against you. You know what I mean? So you would think, even from just a business standpoint, the safety issues would be the number one concern at all times. Whether it comes from the heart or whether it comes from a business sense, one way or the other, it's just more profitable, whether it be for your soul or whether it be for your bank account. It's more profitable to be concerned and make your number one priority safety. In theory, I would think.
Mr. Looper's allegations around budget and safety are patently false, which is not surprising, considering his job was to be a camera operator, and he had absolutely nothing to do with or knowledge of safety protocols or budgets. Safety is always the number one priority on our films.
When people say cutting costs, I don't say.
They said that that safety was the number one priority on their films. Becky G, thank you so much. Becky G says, so if a surgeon is handed an implement that has not been properly disinfected, or I guess an instrument that has not been properly disinfected, and that patient dies, the surgeon is to blame? The surgeon is to blame to some degree, yes. Absolutely. Of course. The surgeon is definitely accountable to some degree. Absolutely. Because first of all, the people work for that surgeon. The surgeon takes rank over everyone, and they are accountable for everyone to some degree. Absolutely. It's your job to make sure. Now, here's the thing. That doesn't really apply, Becky G. That analogy doesn't really apply, and I'll explain why. When a surgeon is sterile, right? Surgeon puts on sterile gloves. They're standing there. They don't touch anything, and they only touch sterilized instruments. And they know that the instruments are sterile. It's up to them, before they actually touch an instrument, to see that that is being taken out of a sterile bag that was used, that was in an autoclave. And you can see on, now, first of all, this is how autoclave safety works. An autoclave bag should be dated. An autoclave bag should be dated before it goes into the autoclave, okay, by a Sharpie. And there's only so much time to where it's still sterile. But there's a little marker that turns brown once it's been autoclaved. It was blue, and then it turns brown once it's been autoclaved, okay? That autoclave is a pressure sterilizer. That's what an autoclave is. And if I'm a surgeon, okay, and somebody else has to open those, I'm going to watch them and make sure that they just took it out of a sterile autoclaved bag, which means that the instrument inside the bag is now sterile, and that's when I'll touch it. That's when I'll put my hands on it. But I will not touch it unless I see it. I will not touch a patient with those instruments unless I see it came out of a sterilized autoclave bag. Simple. Okay? So it doesn't really apply. But yes, if it does apply, then I'm going to say yes. To answer your question, the surgeon is absolutely responsible. Just as responsible.
I don't say this with any judgment or any cynicism. Spielberg wants to save money. Tom Cruise wants to save money. Everybody who makes movies has a responsibility not to be reckless and careless with the money that you're given. We know those are men who make movies that cost 200.
Well, that's not 100% true. Like, using Tom Cruise as an example is probably not the best way to go there, Alec, because Tom Cruise, I remember watching Matt Damon in an interview with, I think it was Conan. It was either Conan or Jimmy Kimmel. I'm not sure. But, well, it wasn't Jimmy Kimmel because he doesn't get along with Jimmy Kimmel. It's a thing. But I can't remember who it was, but he was sitting there being interviewed, and he was telling a story about how he met Tom Cruise at a dinner. And he pulls Tom Cruise aside for a second. This is Matt Damon. And he says, hey, that thing you did where, you know, you're in Dubai and you run across, you're on a thing and you run across the side of the building, that Mission Impossible sequence. A lot of you guys know what I'm talking about, which is really crazy. And he did that stunt himself. Tom Cruise does a lot of his own stunts, crazy stunts too. Like, Tom Cruise is a total daredevil, and he's a total, he's a total action junkie, like in real life. And so he gets really excited to tell Matt Damon about what he's going to do, about how that went down. And he's like, yeah. So he's like, I go to my safety guy and I said, I've been dreaming of this gag for like, you know, ever. And I explained the whole thing to him. And then my safety guy says, well, you can't do that. So I get a new safety guy. So that's Tom Cruise's way of thinking when it comes to safety. Okay. He's going to get whatever his vision is done. Doesn't matter. You know, but he's putting himself in harm's way. He's not putting someone else in harm's way. So, but using Tom Cruise is not really the best example to talk about, you know, someone who wants to save money and, you know, will compromise other people's safety. He'll compromise his own, but not anybody else's. And I know people have their opinions of Tom Cruise. Again, I don't know anything about Scientology. And understand something. When I talk about these Hollywood stars, I'm a big movie buff. I love movies. But I'll tell you this. I have absolutely no desire whatsoever to meet Tom Cruise, to have conversations with Tom Cruise, to sit down and break bread with Tom Cruise. I could give a fuck about how that dude's day has gone. I want to see the next movie that he's got his creative touch on because he knocks it out of the park. I like Tom Cruise movies. I do. I don't care about what he thinks about antidepressants. I don't care what he thinks about anything. I don't care what Alec Baldwin thinks about anything. Alec Baldwin makes movies that I like, and he plays characters that I enjoy watching. Period.
$105 million. And I'm making movies that cost $5 million or
The question, though,
thereabouts.
is were costs being cut at the expense of safety and security?
In my opinion, no, because I did not observe any safety or security issues at all in the time I was there.
Thursday, October 21st, Baldwin posts a photo of himself in costume on Instagram. Back to in person at the office. Blimey, it's exhausting. That morning, Looper and 6 other crew members walked off the set. Filming continued with a replacement camera crew. Scene 118 in the church was slated for after lunch.
Everybody there was having a positive experience. People who are watching the show, people who are back home, you have no idea how unique an environment a motion picture set is. It's kind of, there's an instant familiarity. The amount of care, these are people who are professionals who have really good jobs in a field they love. And I looked at all these people and I see how hard they work. They're so hardworking and they're so conscientious. And you're around people and you're part of one of the great collaborative processes in the world, movie making. Everyone moving like a watch to get everything done. And when you kind of, I don't make that many movies anymore because movie making demanded that I travel and I didn't want to leave my family. All these movies I made, I stayed home. I didn't want to go. If I went away, I went away for a week. To leave my family for 4 weeks and go shoot this movie, that was a big deal. And I'm sitting on this pew. And so help me God. I sat on that pew right before they called lunch. And I said, this movie has made me love making movies again.
See, nobody cares about that.
Because I used to love to make movies.
Like, this is irrelevant to what we're talking about here, dude.
I worked with people once. I was going to do the movie The Edge. And they called me and said they got Tony Hopkins to do the film. What do you make of it? Yeah, looking for you here. And I started sobbing. I just started sobbing because I thought, oh God, I'm going to have a chance to work with this guy. Any chance you can go easy on me? When they cast me in It's Complicated with Meryl, I thought, I'm going to get to go make a movie with her.
I mean, yes, this guy's clearly a twat, Cherry. Like, Alec Baldwin is absolutely a
people,
twat.
they
I
have
think
their
Tom Cruise is
dreams.
a twat too, but I like
no matter how
movies.
old you are, you have your dreams of people you want to work with. And this movie made me love making movies again. I really thought we were onto something.
Next,
she goes down. I thought to myself,
like, that's what you're crying about? You're crying about the fact that this movie's probably not going to get made? Like, come on, dude. That's not a good look.
Did she faint?
Hi, everyone. George Stephanopoulos here. Thanks for checking out the ABC News YouTube channel.
See?
If you'd like to get more videos, show highlights, and watch live.
All right. So that's part 1. Where's part 2? I didn't know there was a part 2. Okay. Oh, there's part 2 and part 3.
It was the 12th day of their 21-day shoot.
That day, I did exactly what I've done every day on that movie.
Baldwin was preparing for his next scene, a shootout inside this wooden church. Set the scene right before that happened. You're sitting in a pew in the church.
Right.
What's the scene supposed to be?
The scene is the two guys are there who have got me, cornered, and they think I'm shot pretty bad, and I'm kind of wilting, and they have a gun, and the sound outside distracts them, and I would draw the gun, cross-draw out of my holster, pull the gun up like that, and start to cock the pistol, cut. I'm handed a gun and someone declares, they said, this is a cold gun.
Dave Halls.
The first AD. In my years on the sets of film, hot gun meant that there was a charge in there and cold gun meant there was nothing in there. When he's saying this is a cold gun, what he's saying to everybody on the set is you can relax. The gun is empty.
That's what cold gun means.
Well, cold gun means there's no charge in there. There could be dummy rounds.
A dummy round looks like a real bullet, but is completely inert. It contains no explosive charge. And you were rehearsing that scene. Was it an actual rehearsal? There's some disagreement about that, whether it was a formal rehearsal at that time.
This is a marking rehearsal where I'm going to show her. She's standing next to the camera. She's like this, you're me. She's got a monitor here. The camera is here filming that way. She takes a monitor that is his monitor, the operator, and turns it toward her. It swivels. And she says to me, hold the gun lower. Go to your right. Okay, right there. All right, do that. Now show it a little bit lower. And she's getting me to position the gun. Everything is in her direction. She's guiding me through how she wants me to hold the gun for this angle. And I draw the gun out and I find a mark. I draw the gun out, I find a cut. And what's really urgent is the gun wasn't meant to be fired in that angle.
So if you're shooting directly into the camera lens, you're not aiming.
I'm not shooting into the camera lens. I'm shooting just off.
Just off.
Right, in her direction. I'm holding the gun where she told me to hold it, which ended up being aimed right in below her armpit, was what I was told. I don't know. This was a completely incidental shot, an angle that may not have ended up in the film at all. But
wow.
We kept doing this. So then I said to her, now in this scene, I'm going to cock the gun. And I said, do you want to see that? And she said, yes. So I take the gun and I start to cock the gun. I'm not going to pull the trigger. I said, do you see that? She goes, well, just cheat it down and tilt it down a little bit like that. And I cock the gun. I go, can you see that? Can you see that? Can you see that? And she says, and then I let go of the hammer of the gun and the gun goes off. I let go of the hammer of the gun and the gun goes off.
At the moment. The decisive
that was the moment
moment
the gun went off. Yeah, that was the moment the gun went off.
Okay. So it wasn't like he pulled the trigger. See, I was under the impression that what basically happened was that he was dicking around. That's the story I heard. What he was dicking around and like, you know, but that's not what happened. So apparently, or at least according to him, this is the cinematographer. Okay. So she's explaining the kind of shot that she's trying to get. Okay. The kind of shot that she's trying to get filmed is him pointing the gun, and they're just going over what the camera is going to pick up for the movie, and they're just going over it. And he asks, "Do you want me for dramatic effect to cock the gun back, to cock the hammer of the gun?" And then so he cocks the hammer of the gun back, but he uncocks it, and it, you know, like when you see old westerns, the kind of guns that they use, sometimes you see them do like this. They shoot like this because they're cocking the hammer back, and it's hitting that back of the round and creating that discharge where the bullet is going to fire. So he's going, you know, when they do that, that's what the hammer of the gun is doing. And so he's claiming that he cocked the gun back, because like in dramatic movies, you see that all the time. You see somebody go, put your fucking hands up, put your fucking hands up. Click, I'm serious, put your fucking hands up, you know, for a more dramatic effect, like I'm gonna fucking shoot you. And then they put because I always like, I mean, just pull the trigger. Why do you have to do that? Well, you know what I mean? I never heard of anybody in real life like cocking the, you know what I mean? So, because it's not necessary. But for dramatic effect, you know, that's what he's claiming happened was he let go of the hammer and it fired. The hammer hit the back of the round. It fired and hit her because she was saying, "This is how I want the camera to see it."
It wasn't in the script for the trigger to be pulled.
Well, the trigger wasn't pulled. I didn't pull the trigger.
So you never pulled the trigger?
No. I would never point a gun at anyone and pull a trigger at them. Never. That was the training that I had. You don't point a gun at me and pull the trigger. On day one of my instruction in this business, people said to me, never take a gun and go click, 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 because even though it's incremental, you damage the firing pin on the gun if you do that. Don't do that.
And Hall's attorney told ABC News that he was watching and agrees that Alec did not pull the trigger and that his finger was outside the trigger guard. So you have this cult.
Okay, so he did practice trigger discipline, according to a witness and according to him, but that doesn't matter. We're going to get to that, at least what my opinion is. And Sweet Home Alabama is saying, please tell me he's not blaming her. He's not actually, he's not necessarily blaming her, but he doesn't seem to be taking any responsibility at all. Until he says once this interview is over and I'll explain what I need to hear him say, he hasn't taken any responsibility.
This Colt 45, you just pulled
the hammer as far back as I could without cocking the actual.
And you're holding on to the hammer.
I'm holding that. I'm just showing. I go, how about that? Does that work? You see that? Do you see that? She goes, yeah, that's good. I let go of the hammer. Bang, the gun goes off. Everyone is horrified. They're shocked. It's loud. They don't have their earplugs in. No one was. The gun was supposed to be empty. I was told I was handed an empty gun. If there were cosmetic rounds, nothing with a charge at all, a flash round, nothing. She goes down. I thought to myself, did she faint? The notion that there was a live round in that gun.
See, no. I find that difficult to believe. I find it extremely difficult to believe that the chain of events taking place made him think that she fainted. Think about it. He's pointing a gun. He's already stated. This is what's interesting. We got to pay attention to the details, folks. Because remember earlier, he was explaining how when he was told how to handle the gun, and if it's a blank round, if it's a dummy round, he's going to have to simulate the kickback because he's not going to feel any kickback because there's no projectile leaving the gun, right? But since a projectile did leave the gun, you're going to tell me, Alec, give me a break, dude. Come on. That this chain of events took place where you cocked the gun back, you let go of the hammer, it hit the back of the round, it fired, made a noise, fired almost instantly. The person that you were pointing the gun directly at falls down and is unconscious. And you had to have felt the kickback from the gun, right? You had to have felt that. So you're going to sit here and try to tell me that you thought that she fainted? The thought of I accidentally shot this person wasn't the first thing to come to your mind? I find that very difficult to believe. See, if he had just been honest, that'd be different. But he's clearly lying right here. I find that almost impossible to believe that since he knows that you're not going to feel a kickback from a dummy round, he had to have felt the kickback from the live round. And your reaction is that you think she fainted after that chain of events taking place? No. Sorry, dude. I'm not buying it.
Did not dawn on me till probably 45 minutes to an hour later.
What?
45 minutes to an hour.
Well, she's laying there and I go, did she get it by wadding? Was there a blank? Sometimes those blank rounds have a wadding inside that packs, it's like a cloth that packs the gunpowder. And sometimes wadding comes out and can hit people and it can feel like a little bit of a poke. But no one could understand. Did she have a heart attack? Because remember, the idea that someone put a live bullet in the gun was not even in reality.
Did you go up to her? Did you back
I went
away?
up to her and then we were immediately told to get out of the building. We were forced to get out of the building. The medic.
So 45 minutes to an hour later, he wasn't even, for 45 minutes to an hour, he wasn't even thinking anything. You know? Oh, shit. Maybe she had a heart attack. Like, really? Even if she had a heart attack, fainted, you weren't concerned about this person for another 45 minutes to an hour? Alec, dude.
The medics came in. I mean, I stood over her for 60 seconds and she just lay there kind of in shock.
Was she conscious?
My recollection is yes.
911, okay.
What's the location of your emergency? We
So
need
she was conscious, and at no point did she say, I've been shot. You shot me. You didn't see blood, nothing. Alec, dude, come on. I'm not buying this story at all.
We need an ambulance out at Bonanza Creek Ranch right now. We've got 2 people shot on a movie set accidentally.
I'll connect you with medical dispatcher. Don't hang up.
Director Joel Souza is also wounded. His shoulder hit by the same bullet that traveled through Helena.
Okay, so it was only one bullet.
When she went down, he went down, and he was screaming really loudly. And I thought, what is he screaming? What happened?
Okay. Okay. So after everything that I just explained as to why I don't believe Alec, on top of everything that I just explained, okay? On top of everything that I just explained, her going down and him thinking she fainted. But as all of this happens at the same time, simultaneously as she goes down, another guy goes down and he's screaming. Is he screaming incoherently? Is he not saying anything? Is he not saying, holy shit, I've been shot? Come on. I just don't, I don't buy it. I don't buy it. Alec, dude.
So was it loaded with a real bullet or one? I cannot tell you that. Okay. We have 2 injuries from a movie gun shot.
Okay, we're getting them out there already. Just stay on the phone with me. Okay.
Within 15 minutes or 20 minutes after that, the police arrived and took the church set and put the crime tape around it, the yellow tape, and forced us all to the perimeters of the parking area where we sat and waited. She was in the church, and she was not taken out of the church for quite a while.
In the aftermath, there was chaos and confusion. But nobody told you what happened?
No. It wasn't until I was in the police station, hours later. I mean, it was like seeing aliens. It was utter disbelief over the idea. It was unacceptable, the idea that it was a live round. And finally, one of the police officers at the conclusion of my interview, I was there for like an hour and a half or so, she takes her phone and she slides it across to me. She says, that's what came out of Joel's shoulder, a 45 caliber slug. It was a real bullet.
Had you known that Joel had been hit?
No one had any idea until that police officer, that sheriff's officer said to me, this is the slug, 45 caliber slug they took out of Joel's arm. And then the kind of insanity-inducing agony of thinking that someone put a live bullet in the gun.
I just don't buy that shit, okay? Because he's sitting here and he's saying that he thinks she fainted, but what's going on there is that the bullet went all the way through her. So the bullet went all the way through, hit Joel, and they dug the 45 round out of Joel. Now, I understand there may be not enough blood to see if the bullet was lodged in her, because that could have been keeping her from bleeding too much, a lot. But if the bullet went all the way through, I'm imagining there's a lot of blood coming from not just the front of her body, but the back of it too. So there's a lot of blood. There has to be a lot of blood. I just don't see how this dude is thinking she fainted or had a heart attack. I call bullshit on that.
Breaking news. A fatal shooting on the set of Alec Baldwin's new movie in New Mexico.
Something went horribly wrong here in Santa Fe.
We've all seen that picture of you off the set in that hour or so after the gun went off. What were you doing? What was going through your mind?
At the end of, she was laying there And she was there for a while. I was amazed at how long they didn't get her in a car and get her out, but they waited and a helicopter came. And by the time the helicopter took off with her and literally lifted off, we were all glued to that process outside.
At 45 to an hour later, buddy. Right.
When she finally left, I don't know how long it was. She was there 30 minutes, 40 minutes. It seemed like a very long time. But they kept saying, well, she's stable. Like nobody, just as you disbelieved that there was a live round in the gun, you disbelieved that this was going to be a fatal accident.
So you didn't know exactly how serious it was.
At the very end of my interview with the sheriff's department, they said to me, we regret to tell you that she didn't make it. She died. They told me right then and there. And that's when I went in the parking lot and called my wife to talk to my wife.
Shock and grief. Helena's husband, Matthew, posted a tribute to Helena. Helena inspired us all with her passion and vision, and her legacy is too meaningful to encapsulate in words. Our loss is enormous.
When this happened, her husband comes to town. Her husband, Matthew. And I met with him.
Now, I agree with this statement. Don't think that this is an attack on the left, okay? Because Kat is saying lefties shouldn't be able to be in the vicinity of firearms. That would be Democrats. That would be liberals. Those who, if you hate guns so much, then yes, you shouldn't even touch them. Most definitely not. I agree with you in that sense. But look at the track record. You know, you have Alec Baldwin, who is a big, very vocal liberal and anti-gun, and then you have the prosecutor, prosecutor who was trying the case of Kyle Rittenhouse. This is a guy who picked up the AR-15 in question in that case and pointed it with his finger in the trigger well at the jury. Yeah. You don't do that. Doesn't matter ever. It doesn't matter if they said, okay, well, it's not loaded. Doesn't matter. You never take someone's word for it. At the end of the day, this is what everything boils down to. Anybody who is a gun owner, a responsible gun owner, someone who takes pride in our Constitution, in our Second Amendment, who believes that it is your right to bear arms for the very reason that this country was established in the first place. Anybody who believes this anybody that I've ever met is very, very, very disciplined in gun safety. Okay. And one of those things is you never, ever, ever point a gun at someone unless you are planning to shoot them. Second, you never hold a gun with your finger in the trigger well. Always. Gun pointing down. Always. Gun pointing down. If it's a rifle, it's pointing down. Your finger is straight alongside the trigger well. You never put your finger in the trigger well. Ever, ever, ever. And you never point it at anybody. Whether it's loaded, whether it isn't, you just don't do that. It is gun safety gospel. And right there is an example. If people just accepted the fact that guns are here and they're not going anywhere, at least educate yourself on them before you start to say that, to sit there and go, we need to just ban guns, right? If you're going to say we just need to ban guns, don't ever touch one, okay? Unless you plan on following all of the safety procedures that go with handling a gun. Get somebody to show you gun safety if you're ever going to put your hands on a gun. It doesn't matter who you are. It doesn't matter what you believe in. It doesn't matter what political beliefs you have, what side you lean and what side you don't. None of that shit matters. None of it matters. If you ever handle a gun. You never point it at anybody, and you never keep your finger in the trigger well, ever. It's real simple. So if you're not willing to ever take gun safety, a crash course in gun safety, at least from somebody who's experienced with guns, you shouldn't be putting your hands on one. You should never hold one, ever, especially if you don't like them.
And their son. And he was as kind as you could be.
What can you possibly say to him?
I didn't know what to say. He hugged me and he goes, I suppose you and I are going to go through this together, he said. And I thought, well, not as much as you are, and his little boy is there who's 9 years old. I have 6 kids now. I have my older daughter, Ireland, but of the 6 kids that he...
Now, I have to say, in his case, it's a little different. Someone was asking him, the person who died was asking him to point the gun at her because she's a cinematographer and she wanted to see what the shot would look like. So in that case, it's a little different, but I'm not letting Alec off the hook here. I'm just going to get to that later. I'm going to get to why I think that how that could have been handled, because somebody asked him to point the gun at him for those particular reasons, for that one particular reason, to get a shot in a movie. There's other ways that you could still practice the gun safety, which I'll get to.
Kids that Ilaria and I have. My oldest is 8. I have a 9-month-old baby.
Yeah, great, dude.
And I think to myself, this
She
little
has
boy,
a 5-year-old.
Doesn't have a mother anymore. And I know that in my life, I'm with my kids, and I'm doing quite well with my kids. My kids and I are having a great time, right until my wife walks in the room, and then I become invisible. My kids all go and they jump on top of their mother. And this boy doesn't have a mother anymore. And there's nothing we can do to bring her back.
Dude, that's not your place to say. That's not a
And
good look.
I told him, I said, I don't know what to say. I don't know.
That's not a good
how to
look.
convey to you how sorry I am and how I'm willing to do anything I can to cooperate.
In the aftermath of the shooting, a torrent of criticism.
The first thing you do when you pick up that gun is you make sure that it's never pointed at anybody.
He should have known that an AD handing you a gun and saying it's cold isn't the same as several people showing you an empty gun.
If I were holding that gun, I would have checked it, wouldn't you?
Yep. Mm-hmm. People said to me, I got countless people online saying, you idiot.
And that's the point I'm getting at. Before I let him try to minimize what he's trying to, what I'm about to say here is, even in the situation where the cinematographer who was the victim here, one of the victims, the cinematographer who even asked him to point the gun at him for the sake of a shot for this movie, to make the movie look good, it's still him as the person handling the gun, holding the gun, knowing that it's a real gun. It is his responsibility to know the difference between dummy rounds and real rounds, and to check the gun, to check what's in it before you point it at somebody. It is your responsibility, period. Alec should have checked the gun. If anybody hands me a gun, just because they say cold gun, guns are too dangerous for you to take someone else's word. They're just too dangerous. No matter what you believe in as far as gun control, anything, we can all agree that guns are lethal weapons. They're very dangerous. And if you're going to handle a gun and if you're going to point it at somebody under any circumstances, it doesn't matter what circumstances. If you are the person holding that gun, it is your responsibility to be trained in gun safety to some degree. And you have to make sure, if it boils down to whether or not there's blank rounds or whether or not there are real rounds in the gun, it's your responsibility to check it and make sure that there are only dummy rounds in that gun. It was his responsibility to do that. That is a grown man. That is a grown man. Now, I love people who are saying this shit. You know, it's a movie set. There should have never been a live round in the movie set. Doesn't matter. You're handling a real gun. You assume that a live round could have gotten on that movie set at all times. When you were dealing with and you're handling such a dangerous weapon, it is your responsibility to make sure you assume that a live round could have gotten on that movie set. You don't trust anybody with that. So just because it's a movie set, it doesn't take away from the fact that he had a real gun in his hand and he was pointing it at somebody. Period.
Idiot, you never point a gun at someone. Well, unless you're told it's empty and it's the director of photography who's instructing you on the angle for a shot we're going to do. And she and I had this thing in common where we both thought it was empty, and it wasn't. And that's not her responsibility. That's not my responsibility. Whose responsibility is remains to be seen. But I do.
Well, there are some who say you're never supposed to point a gun at anyone on a set, no matter what.
Unless the person is the cinematographer who's directing me where to point the gun for her camera angle. That's exactly what happened. That day, I did exactly what I've done every day on that movie.
Which is what?
Which is that there's an armorer there, and that word is new to me. In the years I've been in this
What did
business,
you call it?
It was a prop guy or woman. And the prop person would come, and sometimes they would insist on demonstrating for you and the camera crew. They take the gun. If it was a contemporary gun, they show you the chamber, they show you the clip, they say, the gun is cold. And you look at it and go, thank you. And
right
in the 40 years.
Sometimes that would happen. Not all the time.
So why, if you're not willing to do it, then why didn't you have that happen? Just because they threw you the gun and said, cold gun, you should have been like, yo, I don't know if this is your first time. I don't know if you're new, but you need to show me that it's a cold gun before you hand it to me. If you're going to put the blame on someone else, it's still your responsibility to make sure that that gun is cold.
The time.
Well, but no, sometimes they wouldn't demonstrate to me. Some insisted on demonstrating. They would do the demonstration for everybody there right before we rolled the camera.
You need to insist on that. That's the problem. You don't insist on it. Some of the people working with guns are very responsible, and they insist on showing you and going, hey, this is a cold gun. This is how you know. Check it out. Here's the chamber. Here's the mag. Boom. You're ready to go. But as the person handling the gun, pointing it at people for the sake of a good movie shot, well, it's your responsibility to be like, hey, who taught you how to handle these guns? I insist that every time somebody hands me a gun before a scene, that you show me that it's a cold gun. Don't just tell me it's a cold gun. I'll be a dick. Like, that's the kind of thing that I'd be a dick about in Hollywood. If I was a fucking actor, I'd be like, don't just fucking tell me it's cold. Show me that the gun's cold. The fuck? Who taught you how to do this?
Or rehearsed. Then there were others who they didn't do that because I trusted them to do the job. And again, this is not just me pointing a gun at somebody else, people pointing guns at me. I've gotten shot and killed in films before where people had to shoot a flash round at me, and I trusted them to do their job. And in the 40 years I've been in this business, all the way up until that day, I never had a problem.
How many times do you think you handled a gun in those 40 years?
Oh, God, I don't know. What amazes me is how many rounds of bullets do you believe have been fired on the sets of movies and TV shows in the last 75 years?
No idea.
Right. It could even be above 1 billion. You've had hundreds and hundreds of millions of bullets fired on the sets of films and TV shows.
Sure.
And 4 or 5 people were killed. Now, those deaths are...
Okay, see, Alec, that doesn't make the weapon that is in your hands any less dangerous. You can't go by statistics. You have the power, meaning that you have the responsibility to personally make sure that the gun is safe. Period.
are tragic and abhorrent. And believe me, I would do anything in my power. I would do anything in my power to undo what was done. I don't know how that bullet arrived in that gun. I don't know. But I'm all for doing anything that will take us to a place where this is less likely to happen.
I mean,
again.
it could have been...
Every single time
It could have been a situation where the manufacturer accidentally put one in there. Accidents happen. But, you know, it could have been a situation like that. But again, at the end of the day, it doesn't change the fact that you had a lethal weapon in your hands.
time I'm handed a gun on a set. Every time, Mark. They hand me a gun, I look at it, I open it, I show it to the person I'm pointing it to, we show it to the crew. Every single take, you hand it back to the armor when you're done, you do it again. Right. Everyone does it. Everybody knows it.
How do you respond to actors like George Clooney who say that every time they were handed a gun, they checked it themselves?
See, that right there. See, I love to see that. Clooney's like, I don't want to hear that shit. He's like, every single fucking time, dude. Every time, every take, everyone looks at the gun, inspects the gun, makes sure that it's safe.
Well, there were a lot of people who felt it necessary to contribute some comment to the situation, which really didn't help the situation.
Oh, fuck you, dude.
You have if your protocol is you check the gun every time, well, good for you. Good for you.
Wow.
And I probably handled weapons as much as any other actor in films. But yeah, necessary to contribute some comment to the situation, which really didn't help the situation at all. You have if your protocol is you check the gun every time, well, good for you. Good
wow.
For you. You know, I mean, I probably handled weapons.
No, it's not good for you. It's the way it should be. Period. Like the protocol should be that protocol to make sure that the gun is safe should be the standard. And you're sitting here blowing it off like, well, you know, well, sometimes those guys are safer than me. Good for them. That's your excuse? Are you fucking kidding? I can't believe you just said that shit out loud.
As much as any other actor in films with an average career, again, shooting or being shot by someone. And in that time, I had a protocol, and it never let me down.
Why did you choose in your 40 years not to check the gun yourself?
What I was taught by someone years ago was, as I said, if I took a gun and I popped a clip out of a gun or I manipulated the chamber of a gun, they would take the gun away from me and redo it. The prop person said, don't do that. When I was young. And they'd say, one thing you need to understand is we don't want the actor to be the last line of defense against a catastrophic breach of safety with the gun.
What?
My job, they told me, man or woman, my job is to make sure the gun is safe, and then I hand you the gun and I declare the gun safe. The crew.
No. Anyone, and I'm going to say this a bunch of times throughout this live stream because I've already said it a bunch of times and I'm going to keep saying it. Anyone holding a gun should be considered and think of themselves as the last line of defense as far as gun safety goes. Anyone. For you to just that's the difference between a grown man and somebody who just doesn't want to take any responsibility, because he's sitting there blaming the prop person. The prop person says, well, okay, the prop person told me that they don't want the actor to be the last line of defense when it comes to gun safety. That's my job. Yes, it is your job. But if a prop person, if I'm an actor and a prop person tells me, okay, now chances are I'm being paid a lot more than that prop actor, and I'm a lot more important on that set than that prop actor. So I'm going to act the part. I'm going to exercise that part. And as soon as that prop person tells me, don't do that, I'm supposed to be the last line of defense. I'm going to go, well, I'm the one handling the gun. So get used to the fact that I'm going to do it every time. So stand over there and handle the other props. And each time that you hand me a gun, get used to watching me make sure that the gun is safe after you handed it to me. Get used to it, because that's what I'm going to do. It's what I've always done, and that's what I always will do, because that's called basic gun safety. And if you don't know that as a prop person, you shouldn't be a prop person handling guns.
The crew's not relying on you to say that it's safe. They're relying on me to say that it's safe. When that person who was charged with that job handed me the weapon, I trusted them, and I never had a problem.
And this was from the beginning of your career.
From day
you got
one.
lucky.
There's one person that's supposed to make sure that what is in the gun is right, and that what's wrong is not in the gun. One person has that responsibility to maintain the gun. And
what is the actor's responsibility?
I guess that's a tough question, because the actor's responsibility going this day forward is very different than it was the day before.
Oh.
Now I can't. First of all, I can't imagine I'd ever do a movie that had a gun in it again. And I can't. When you say what is the actor's responsibility, the actor's responsibility is to do what the prop armorer tells him to do.
Wow.
And we did not have a problem. I mean, I understand there was an accidental discharge at one point on the set of a blank round, but we did not have a problem for me until that day. Everything gets slowed down. Zapruder film-esque here. And the issue with that is there's only one question to be resolved, only one. That is, where did the live round come from?
That's not the only question, no.
Hi, everyone. George Stephanopoulos here. Thanks for checking out the ABC News YouTube channel.
This dude, man, that's really, really annoying that he refused to take any responsibility. That's really annoying that he refused to take any responsibility. Wow. Oh God. Like, let me see something. Now, I have the full interrogation here. The problem with it is it's law and crime. And I don't want to get struck by law and crime. They like to strike people. So, Cherry, if the one you have is not law and crime, great. I would love that. Yeah, it's really irritating to me, honestly. It's really irritating to me that that he would not take any accountability there. He says that the actor's responsibility is to do what the prop person says. Yeah, it doesn't end there. No, gun safety simply dictates whoever handles the gun is responsible for making sure that it's safe to use, period. The person handling the gun is responsible for their personal environment and the safety of others within that personal environment, period. There's no escaping that accountability, Alec. Yeah, that's also a good point. Kat's making a good point here. This is also why one should never speak to anyone during an open investigation. He has hung himself, and there is no way I'm not going to check a weapon before firing. Period. I agree. Like that's going to be used as evidence. That interview is going to be used as evidence. It just is. It's going to come up in trial. So okay, hold on. All right, so this is not law and crime, so good. Okay.
These to you as you understand them, and just sign an initial, and then if you read the bottom and agree to talk to us, sign as you understand them.
Yeah, so first one, you have the right to remain silent. Anything you say may be used against you in court or other proceedings. You have the right to consult with an attorney before making any statement or answering any questions, and you may have him or her present with you during questioning. You may have an attorney appointed to you to represent you if you cannot afford one or otherwise obtain one. If you decide to answer any questions now with or without a lawyer, you have the right to stop questioning at any time or to stop questioning for the purpose of consulting a lawyer.
So my only question is, am I being charged with something?
No, we're just interviewing.
I thought that's what that's what
I'm
not worried because I'm not,
We have to do our job at
just tell me that.
at advising you your rights
Write my
because
name
this is an investigation.
Yes.
Have to do it.
I didn't properly set this up. So this is the interview that he had with law enforcement. I don't want to call it an interrogation because it wasn't an interrogation. I don't think that they suspected him necessarily of a crime. But this is definitely an interview with Alec Baldwin to get to the bottom of what his of what the events consisted of as he sees them.
Here, I appreciate it.
What is today?
It is the 21st of October.
Oh.
Long day?
Well, what's interesting, not to digress on some commentary here, is that we've done this for 2 weeks and we did it the right way every day. Every day. You're on a set, you rehearse, they bring you what's called a cold gun. The gun is either completely empty, the chambers, or there is a cosmetic piece. So, for example, if you're the camera.
Okay, so right away, he's trying to get down to the bottom of Muddy H2O. If a pregnant virgin, thank you so much. If a pregnant virgin riding a camel hands you a firearm and tells you it's clear, it is still your responsibility to confirm it is. Period. I completely agree. Thank you so much for that.
This is going to sound silly and specific, but if I'm pointing the gun close to the camera, you want to see into the cylinder. But there's material in there, cosmetic material. So those rounds are cosmetic rounds. They put them in.
Okay, so that's now. I wish I could show you. I know I've seen blank rounds before, and a blank round that's not dressed up cosmetically the way that he's explaining. A blank round is just it's just like the shell, but it doesn't actually have like a projectile bullet in it. That end is just all scrunched up, like almost like tinfoil, scrunched up to show that there's no projectile bullet inside that round. So the purpose of it is just basically to make noise, and then the firearm will discharge the shell. And so now, if you have those rounds in a gun that's pointing at a camera, you're going to see those scrunched up little ends of the round, and it's not going to look real. So what they do is they make these like they say dummy rounds, and they're just cosmetic. They look like bullet ends so that they look like real bullets in the revolver when it's pointed at the camera. And so that's basically the excuse he's using, is like it looked fake. There was no way for me to know. And all she did, like, he sat there and he sighed and he goes, ah. And then the cop is like, long day. And then right away he starts making excuses for what happened.
And you rehearse, or even in a shot when you don't fire. They pulled it up and you see there's some material inside the cylinder. They'd hand me a cold gun, no charges. They always hand you a cold gun with nothing in it to rehearse. And then when you shoot, if you are shooting loads that are flash loads, and they're usually in 3 denominations, quarter, half, or full load, so that the flash is bright and the sound is loud, louder, loudest. Full load is loudest. So if you're outside, you want a full load, bang.
There's no doubt in my mind, Coach Couch Clips. Absolutely. If he had done what I've been saying over and over again this entire live stream, if he had taken those safety precautions himself, nobody would have gotten hurt. That's a fact. I mean, there's no denying that. People could sit here and deny that all they want. It's not his fault, blah, blah, blah. He was told it was a cold gun. See, that's the thing is, and try not to take this the wrong way, but this channel is real big on accountability. And people who think that way automatically already tell me that they probably lack a certain sense of accountability. If you're quick to say, hey, the person handling the gun wasn't responsible, he took someone else's word for it, that's someone who I'm going to think is going to be more likely to make an excuse or pass the buck when it comes to some wrongdoing. And that doesn't help because one of the things that people say about the left is that this is one of those very, very common traits amongst people who lean towards the left is they don't want to take any accountability. Somebody else is always at fault. There's always somebody to blame. There's never any accountability and never any stand up and I'm going to roll up my sleeves and handle this myself kind of attitude for anything. Your words hurt my feelings and it's your fault that I behave the way that I do because you triggered me and hurt my feelings. That's a bunch of bullshit. And this is exactly what he's doing. He's expressing that right now, and I'm not saying that all liberals are like this. I'm just saying if you're a liberal and you're trying to vindicate Alec Baldwin's responsibility here, and you're trying to vindicate him of any responsibility, well, you're just living up to that particular stereotype. I'm sorry, but you are. The fact is this man was the one holding the gun, and it was his responsibility to make sure that he wasn't going to hurt anybody with a lethal handheld weapon.
Or you shoot, everyone preps, crew puts the earplugs in, so put headphones on. The camera's there. Very often there's a loose sight screen, but you're the camera operator, and there's the camera. So I show.
And I promise you that his lack of responsibility and the fact that he didn't practice basic gun safety that so many other stars tend to practice. You think Keanu Reeves, dude, filming John Wick movies with all of the gunfire that takes place, do you think that Keanu Reeves doesn't practice gun safety? That it hasn't been drilled into his head, all gun safety precautions? We're talking about a dude who we've seen footage of him firing live rounds doing target practice. You think that those people that are there to show him that aren't like, hey man, if you've got this gun in your hand, if you're going to be around me, you better point that thing to the ground, and don't ever let me see your finger in the trigger well unless you're pointing it at your target. Ever. I guarantee you that that's happened. With the John Wick movies, I guarantee you that Keanu Reeves is extremely trained on gun safety. Guaranteed. Well, if he has gun safety, why didn't he practice it? Even less of an excuse. Why didn't he practice it that day? It's on him to do it.
Shooting to the lens, and you shoot it. There's a flash and a sound. Now, I went to lunch. She disarmed me. I sat down.
She being
Hannah, the armaments person. She was always handling the guns 99% of the time. So I would, if I had a cosmetic rifle with no rounds, I'd hand it to one of her assistants. I'm sitting there. She disarms me. We go to lunch. We come back to lunch, and they hand me the revolver, the Colt.
And I just like so the name. It's Hannah again.
They arm me, and you're assuming, as we've done every time, that it's a cold gun for the rehearsal. And I put the gag in the shot. You're the camera because I have a coat and I have a holster, and I pull the coat over, and I kind of cup my hands like I folded my hands. And then I'm going to slowly sneak the revolver, the Colt out, and turn and shoot these other guys, or try to shoot them. I take the coat over the thing. I know the camera's there. I believe my recollection is she was there, turned a bit, like talking to him. So I think she was hitting the right armpit. But this is all I know, and that is that I take the gun out in the rehearsal. He wants it very dramatic and very slow. I'm trying to sneak up on it. I take the gun out, and as it clears, as the barrel clears, I'll turn and cock the gun over here. I turn and cock the gun goes off. It's supposed to be a cold gun. Nothing. No flash charges, nothing. Now, this is a puzzle to me, and this is making me very emotional now. In my time, and I'm older now, but when I was younger and I was shooting guns in films, I've never seen a theatrical flash round with the material went through someone's armpit, came out their body, and hit somebody else in the shoulder.
Yeah.
I'm wondering if your department is prepared to go find out what comes out of his shoulder surgically. Is that a live round?
That's what we are actually looking
Is that a lot? Because it doesn't make any sense otherwise.
Yeah,
It's her in the armpit, comes out her shoulder, goes into his shoulder, and he just told me on the phone. I talked to Joe. He said they showed me the X-ray, and the shape of the thing in my shoulder is the shape of a bullet. Now, all the rounds, I was told, you need to verify. I think this is an important note. They take the gun, they empty the gun, and all the rounds that are in there were either dummy rounds, no flash, cold rounds, or rounds with a flash. In the rehearsal, there should have been nothing. It should have been a cold gun with no rounds inside, or dummy rounds, cosmetic rounds, no flash. I take the gun out slowly. I cock the pistol. Bang! It goes up. She hits the ground. She goes down. He goes down, screaming. He's like, Jesus Christ! And I'm going. And I thought that maybe sometimes the wadding can come out if you're close and you get a burn. 2 actors who killed themselves with guns, with theatrical guns. John Evans.
Now, what he's talking about right now is very, very important. Because remember earlier, he was like, I thought maybe she fainted. Right? I thought maybe she fainted, which would not explain why Joel ended up on the ground screaming at the exact same time. Right? So she falls to the ground. He thinks she fainted, and Joel is screaming, and then he walks away and doesn't think a thing of it for 45 minutes to an hour. This is what he said in that interview that we just watched. Now here, he's explaining that when it's a cold gun and the person's told him that the gun was cold, it's not supposed to even have a flash. It's not supposed to even carry dummy or blank rounds. It's supposed to just be a cold gun where nothing happens. No noise gets made. No flash happens. Nothing. Okay? Cold gun means cold. Nothing. So why isn't he asking questions immediately? Because there had to have been a flash, right? There had to have been a noise. So immediately he should have thought that something was suspicious and wrong. when that gun went off. Because why would a cold gun make any noise at all whatsoever? Why would a cold gun have any flash at all whatsoever?
On Eric Hexum and Brandon Lee, they put the live round there, and I'm told even with the flash powder, you can cause contusions and you can do a brain bleed and die, which both of them died.
Right.
I think with Brandon Lee, there was a piece of material lodged in the thing that shot from or something.
Yeah.
I don't remember vividly, but my point is, I've been doing this. I shot enough guns in my day in movies. I've never seen this before, where a flash round was, from my understanding is, may I borrow your pen from?
Of course, you can read out.
My understanding is that in a bullet, here's the thing with the pin, and here's the bullet itself. Here, when you have a cosmetic round, no flash or nothing, they drill a hole in the side of the brass to signify that it's a cosmetic round. There's nothing in there. There's no powder. But when you have a flash round, and there's stuff in there, wadding and powder to make the charge.
He keeps
this
saying that.
material here, that is the bullet, is made of a clay or some material that just disintegrates. So what you have is bang, and you see the flash go bang, and you hear the sound, but nothing.
Right, but not in a cold gun, Alex. Alec, you thought the gun was cold, right?
And into his shoulder.
That's pretty powerful.
I've never heard of it. Now, some people say you can lodge material in the barrel accidentally, a rock, something that happens, which is why every time we've done this, I'm here to tell you, to testify that every time we've done this, she's done it right. She cleaned the barrel, made sure nothing was lodged in there. We went hot when they were ready. You always announce, going hot. Crew gets ready. And then all of a sudden, you're the camera, and I shoot away from you. I sit there and like, bang, 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 and flashes are coming out, and we shoot the rounds. She cleans the barrel every time, and she checks that the rounds are all cosmetic rounds, or nothing in the chamber for the rehearsal. She hands me the gun. I'm assuming she's done it the right way. She's done it the last 2 weeks. I put it in the holster. I pull it out slow. We're rehearsing. We're not filming anything. I pull it out slow, turn, cock the pistol, bang, it goes up, and she hits the ground. And then he starts screaming. And I'm thinking, in a flash round, I could see maybe if there was wadding or there's some stuff that's hot, and maybe it hits you and burns you. As they say, sometimes that happens. But remember, we're rehearsing, so no one's protected.
So it's all supposed to be different.
But you didn't, in a 45 caliber gun, a 45 caliber gun, you didn't feel the kick from that gun? Dude, a 45 is powerful, man. You didn't feel I've shot a 45 before. Dude, like it's like with both hands like this. Like it does this. Don't tell me, Alec, that you come on, dude. Don't sit here and tell me that you thought that was a flash and that something might have just kind of burned through. And no, dude, come on. You had to have felt the kick from that gun. You had to have.
The gun is normally empty. But my point is that they were standing in positions they wouldn't ordinarily be in because they assumed it was an empty, cold gun. We weren't shooting, we were rehearsing. That's a vital difference. So if she's here, if the camera's here, and she's standing here talking to the guy, and I'm on a bench here, and Joel's behind her, and this is not proportionate because obviously the camera's not as big as her body. And I draw the gun slowly and aim off camera, and there's supposed to be nothing in there. So she's not protecting herself and standing off. I'm shooting in a direction, and everybody is supposed to be to that side of the camera. There's nobody in my line. Nobody. And so when I shoot the gun, so in the rehearsal, I'm assuming I have an empty gun, and the gun goes off. She's right in front of me. Mm-hmm. She's as far from me as I am from a difference between maybe you and the door.
Okay, so pretty close proximity.
It was a very tight shot.
Okay.
The shot was here, of me, not of me. It's of me pulling the gun slowly, turn cock.
Okay.
And she's right there, vulnerable, in a position she wouldn't ordinarily be if we were shooting. And this thing, boom, she hits the ground.
Okay. All right. I'm going to back you up just a little bit, okay? How long have you been on set?
I arrived Monday the 11th
Okay.
and started my fittings, and they already were shooting.
I mean, it's not a good
And
look.
the 11th of October?
It's not a good look that he was defensive immediately. Like, if we were talking about anybody other than Alec Baldwin here, right? If we were talking about anybody else and we were watching an interrogation video and we notice from anyone else that this person at no point asked about the victims or discussed the victims or discussed, his concern is, don't look at me as the bad guy. That's his whole agenda right now so far in this interview is, I'm not the bad guy here. I'm not the bad guy. I'm not the bad guy. At no point like, oh my God, like this poor woman, she's got a little boy and her little boy's never going to see her again. And, you know, this is not his reaction. His reaction is, before we even get into this, I got to explain to you, I'm not responsible because they gave me what was supposed to be a cold gun. So go ahead and ask your questions. I just want to put that out there into the universe so that you know.
Monday the 11th, I flew in from New York. I flew from New York to Denver, Denver to Albuquerque because there are no direct flights here, and then drove from Albuquerque to here.
Okay.
Rehearsed and fitted and did all my preparatory stuff.
But that was in October, correct?
That was Tuesday the 12th. Yeah. I flew on the 11th, rehearsed on the 12th, started shooting the 13th, Wednesday the 13th. That's what we shoot.
Okay.
We shoot a Wednesday through Sunday schedule. We're off Monday, Tuesday.
So the entire time you've been on set, have you seen the same armorer
And
working
her
with
crew,
you guys?
Everybody.
How many people are on her crew?
My guess is that what I witnessed is 3,
Okay.
all young women. Hannah and 2 other women.
All right.
And very often they're tasked with me because we're not shooting every day.
He has 6 kids, for fuck's sake.
They dress me.
Like, calm down. He only has 6 kids.
1888, so I'm armed with the classic weaponry of the cowboy era.
Okay.
And so they would make sure I was dressed.
But I agree. I don't think he gives a fuck.
85% of their task is to make sure I'm dressed with everything properly.
The armorers?
The
Or
armorers-
just
Well, the armorers, wardrobe doesn't necessarily, they sometimes trade back and forth, but wardrobe doesn't necessarily deal with my holster
okay.
and the knife, because that's a prop. The armorer, Hannah, and her team, they dealt with me being knifed and that being lashed properly, so it looks proper,
Okay.
and the holster.
Okay.
So
And
it was wardrobe as much as it was props, as much as it was armaments.
do you know Hannah's last name?
No.
Do you know what she looks like? Or can you describe what she looks like?
Multicolored hair, glasses,
Now, I honestly,
not too tall.
I honestly don't see any reason to go through the whole thing again. We can go through it another time if you guys want. But I want to point out, let me just go over this real quick because I did a community poll here, and so far 59. Okay, I put, is it just that Alec Baldwin is being charged with involuntary manslaughter? I was very specific in the way that I worded that. Is it just that Alec Baldwin is being charged with involuntary manslaughter? And I have just under 600 votes, 599 votes, and the choices are no, it was an accident and everyone should just move on. The second choice is yes, he should have known better and been more careful. And the third choice is if guns were outlawed, this would have never happened. Now, only 7% felt that this was a gun control issue. Okay, only 7% out of 600 people. So we're all pretty much mostly on the same page when it comes to gun control and this particular incident. It's irrelevant. Gun control has nothing to do with anything. Most of us seem to be in agreement on that. Now, 34% think it's just an accident, leave Alec alone, move on, leave it alone. It was just an accident. He feels bad enough as it is, blah, blah, blah. But 59% feel, yes, he should have known better and been more careful. So the majority, now that's a pretty close, 59% versus 34 is kind of close. So there's definitely some mixed feelings about this. And there's a lot of comments. I'm going to go towards, and I see this person's in chat too. Crime with K says that getting rid of guns will mitigate many deaths in the U.S. So Crime with K is part of that 7%. Getting rid of guns will mitigate many deaths in the USA. I don't understand the need to own a gun. We get by without them just fine here in the UK. Sorry, but yeah. And so I sarcastically responded. I was the first one to respond to that. And 11 people liked her comment. Okay. And my first response was, yeah, you guys just stab each other out there. And Jeanette Rebel said crime with K. I agree 100%. Jeanette Rebel is also in the UK and is a loyal supporter of the channel. And Crime Time Grime says, yeah, I shot a coyote in my backyard the other day. I guess I should have just walked up and stabbed him. I'll take that into consideration when that bear comes back. And then Crime with K responds, bear deterrent idea versus mass school shootings. Whatever is more important to you, pal, you do you, which is actually a pretty good point to that. And Slobon Walsh responded to my comment saying, and I assume they're from the UK, we don't have guns from Ireland, actually. We don't have guns in Ireland. And guess what? Knife crimes are not a big issue over here, nor are school shootings an issue, and people do not go around shooting each other here in the Republic. Now, I think I know some people that might disagree with you on that. Kelly Chabak says, I don't understand the need to tell others what they need based on our own personal situation. I once read a thread where a very ignorant gun control advocate was telling a woman whose crazy boyfriend was stalking her that no one needed a gun, knowing nothing about her situation. Also a great point. Lula's Nana says, the glare, I grew up as anti-gun. I'm a Brit, but now I understand how the world really works. Y'all better keep them guns. And Crime Time with Grime says, crime with K. Personally, I think they should do away with schools since they are just such a target. Online classes would solve that. Wow. I hope that was sarcasm. And there's more replies here. Now, Muddy H2O, who commented earlier, says, my pleasure. I'm not the egotistical digging type. Guns or no guns, people will continue to kill. That is the real problem, not the tool they use to do it. Knives, hands, feet, bats, razor blades, cards, pretty much anything can be used to kill. Focusing on mental health and proper gun safety would be more effective than the banning of guns, but that would require our government to actually do something about violence rather than just claiming they want to. Excellent point. Excellent point. And I got to point out, this debate goes further. I'm not going to go over everything, but everybody on each side, I've got to commend all of you guys. And if you're still in my chat, I've got to commend you guys for being so respectful to each other, discussing such a heated subject, because it is a heated subject no matter what. And you guys were really respectful towards each other in my comment section, and I really appreciate it. I want to be very, very clear about that, and I'm glad that we could all have a conversation regarding this. Now, what you have to understand is as a patriot, okay, and I do consider myself a patriot, and I am pro Second Amendment, but whether or not I believe that everyone should own a gun, whether or not I believe more people, I don't think that everyone should own a gun necessarily, but whether or not I believe that more people should own a gun and properly be trained on how to handle the gun, on gun safety, go to a range on a regular basis and learn how to shoot. I think living in a world where guns are a thing, there's no changing that. Outlawing guns is not going to get rid of guns. Guns are always going to be manufactured somewhere in the world, and they're always going to find their way into our country, just like they find their way into other countries as well. And so my point of view on that, my opinion on that is, guns aren't going to go away. I believe adapt or die. I would prefer to educate myself on gun safety, learn how to use a gun. And like I said, as far as the mass shooting goes, I've said this many times. I didn't say that here on this stream, but as far as mass shooting goes, I think that the remedy is for more people to own guns, and for good people, responsible, decent people, to more responsible, decent people to own guns and educate themselves on gun use and gun safety, because a mass shooter who is afraid to be taken down in an instant by anybody that could be in a crowded place that they decided to shoot everybody, they're going to be a lot less likely to actually go and shoot a bunch of people in a crowded place, because they're cowards who are afraid of getting shot most of the time. So they're going to be discouraged if the regular norm is they walk into a Walmart, and most of those people in Walmart, the general knowledge is that they are armed and they're going to take you down. So that's how I personally feel about it. But regardless of that opinion, what I'm mostly passionate about is someone's right to own a gun. Someone's right. I believe that this country was founded on the people arming themselves, training themselves properly, and taking on one of the biggest empires in the world in order to liberate themselves. And that is what became of the United States of America in 1776. They fought a long war against a tyrannical government, being the British, and we beat them because we learned how to use the weapons that were going to beat the British. And that Second Amendment exists just in case our government becomes too powerful to the point to where they may become tyrannical. The idea is to maintain our independence and our freedom. That is the point behind the Second Amendment, to maintain and be able to have the means to maintain and fight for our freedom. So that's why I am pro Second Amendment. That's why I am not for gun control. I don't like the idea of decent people being stripped of their right to defend themselves against anyone. It doesn't matter who. Just because it's your government, it doesn't make it somehow treasonous in any way, shape, or form to be able to have the right to maintain your own independence and your own freedom. Nobody, including your government, has the right to take that from you. And that is the entire point of the Second Amendment. And that's why I believe so strongly in it. So now I'm not going to get into it deep. I realize there's people in the chat right now that are just going, "Oh my God, freedom to exploit and our freedom of speech is being taken away too." And there's arguments from all sides, and everybody has valid points. Everybody has good points. Do I think that there's a lot of gun violence? Sure. Is it senseless? Sure. But I don't believe that guns are necessarily the problem. Our human nature is the problem, and it's always been that. Since the beginning of time, we've been killing each other for more power. The difference between the United States and the rest of history is we fought for our independence. We didn't fight to take over land. We didn't go and beat the British and go, you know what we're going to do? We're going to expand an empire all over the world. We didn't do that. We were just like, we want to be able to live life on our terms without a tyrannical government telling us what we should do and trying to make us pay way more taxes than we should be paying. We want to be able to govern ourselves as a people. And we're willing to die for that ideal. We're willing to die for that right. But there was no desire to spread that, at least not at the time. At least not at the time. But yes, there's definitely an agenda to spread democracy all over the globe. Yes, that is a thing. Cherry being a limey is saying you should pay more tax, traders. No. No. Now I have my beliefs, my political beliefs, but as an American, I respect everyone's political beliefs. I respect everyone's right to believe in whatever they want to believe in. That is what makes America great. That's what makes America beautiful. The idea that you can believe in whatever you want. What I try to practice in this particular live stream with this chat is you can believe whatever you want. I can believe whatever I want, and we can have a peaceful and productive conversation. But the point being, the overall point is that we can coexist. We can say live and let live. You believe in what you want. I believe in what I want. I'm living my life. You're living yours. Whatever makes you feel more comfortable and sleep well at night, good for you. To me, that is the beauty of being an American, is to live and let live. Now, that's supposed to be what being liberal means. Somehow, that's not what liberal means. Now, liberal means you can't say this and you can't do that. Well, why not? Because you just can't. It hurts people's feelings. You can't do that. That's not what liberal actually means. What liberal means is I'm free to do what I want and you're free to do what you want, as long as you're not destroying someone in the process. As long as you're not making life unbearable for someone else. And I'm sorry, but someone saying something that you could easily just flip a channel, change the station, someone saying something is not going to affect you in that way. You have the power to just handle it and deal with it. Nobody's telling you to deal with taking a physical beating. In a perfect world, in my opinion, a perfect world is where you get to say and do whatever you want, and the person next to you can handle it. And you can handle what somebody else is saying. In a perfect world, say whatever you want. Who cares? If you don't like it, don't listen to it. If you don't like my channel, don't listen to it. You know what I mean? It's all good. It's all good. You know, but you're not going to sit here and tell me that you demand that I change the things that I think are funny and that I think are okay to talk about. You don't get to dictate that. To me, that's the same as book burning, trying to regulate what people are exposed to. I mean, Muddy H2O, thank you. All gun regulation is unconstitutional as well as ineffective. They only hurt law-abiding citizens. Criminals do not follow laws or regulations. Very well put. I completely agree. Thank you for that, Muddy H2O. I actually completely agree with that. Because, again, it's just like the old cliche bumper sticker. If you outlaw guns, only outlaws will have guns. It only makes sense. It only makes sense to arm yourself against the bad guys who are armed. What are you going to do? Love them to death? That's not how it works. That's not the world we live in. I'm sorry. It just isn't. As much as I wish it were, but it's just not. And it's not going to happen like that. And guess what? The only way realistically for that to ever happen is for everyone to outgun all of the bad people with guns who have violent tendencies. If the people with guns left standing don't have a violent desire to be tyrannical, well, then guess what? That's the closest next step you're going to get to a kumbaya, everybody's happy, live and let live kind of world. That's the only way that's going to happen. People are going to have to die. Bloodshed is going to take place because that's just the world we live in. We live in a world where guns are how things get done. Now, and it's the last line of defense because we do things diplomatically, of course. That's always the first thing to do is to be diplomatic. But at the end of the day, if somebody's losing billions and billions of dollars, guess what? In order to maintain their billions of dollars, they're going to resort to guns. And if that person with billions and billions of dollars becomes too powerful, the peasants, okay, the only way they're going to come out on top is if they outgun those people with the billions and billions of dollars so that they don't have to live under tyranny. That's just how that works. There's no way around it. There's just no way around it. So if you ask me, in conclusion, if you ask me if it is just that Alec Baldwin be charged with involuntary manslaughter, I say absolutely. And I'll explain why. I'll explain my personal position on that. Why I feel that way is because it's not like he was charged with murder. He was charged with involuntary manslaughter. The facts of this case are he pointed a gun at somebody. He did not have the intention to hurt or kill them. But nevertheless, someone died due to his actions. And those actions could have been avoided had he practiced gun safety. Had he actually looked at the gun being in his hand, and this is what's going to be proven in a court of law if he tries to plead not guilty. The gun was put in his hands, and it was his responsibility as the person holding the gun to make sure that it was safe to point at someone. Since he failed to do that, he inadvertently, involuntarily killed someone. Hence the involuntary manslaughter charge. So yes, he is accountable. It's not like he's going to go to prison for the rest of his life. And it's not like anybody's calling him a cold-blooded murderer. That's not the case. We're talking about how he, in my opinion, should be made an example of. This should set a standard for gun safety in movies, on movie sets. They need to tighten up how the flash or cosmetic ammunition, the dummy ammunition comes in and out. That should be inspected, double inspected, triple inspected before it ends up in the actor's hands. And the actor should be trained on gun safety, and it should be a policy that that actor at every take, the way George Clooney explained it, should check that gun to make sure that it is safe if their next move in filming that movie is to point it at somebody. And the fact that he is a perfectly logical and rational human being of sound mind and a grown-up, it was his responsibility to make sure that that gun was safe. And since he failed to do that, hence the involuntary manslaughter charge. He accidentally killed someone, plain and simple. And he's being charged with that. Due to his negligence, someone died. There's no denying that. Due to someone else's negligence, someone died, and that person is being charged too. But both people are equally responsible. Both parties are equally responsible for what happened to those two people on that movie set. And there's just no denying that. Sorry. There's just no denying that. Anybody who responsibly handles a gun will tell you that. So, yes, I think Alec Baldwin needs to answer for his actions. And I think this should set an absolutely brand new standard of how gun safety is conducted on movie sets. Thank you so much, Margaret Alford. They were doing target practice the night before. Thought he hated guns. Right. You know, I mean, no, here's the thing about that. And I love where you're coming from on that. And I appreciate the super chat. Thank you. But I have to kind of elaborate on your comment there. You're saying they were doing target practice the night before, thought he hated guns. And this is what I'm saying is, even if you hate guns and you insist on using guns because you're an actor, I get that. Okay, I hate guns, but I want to make this movie. And so even though I don't like guns, that's all the more reason why he should have been in a gun range doing target practice the night before, because he was actually training himself on gun safety. He was doing what you're supposed to do. Anybody who hates guns, but you're going to make movies where you're using a gun, you should be more careful than anybody. And so to me, that's a good sign that he was actually at a gun range. But it's a bad sign that he was at a gun range the night before, but the next day didn't practice gun safety at all. That just tells me that he was educated on gun safety, so he can't claim ignorance. He can't claim, a lack of knowledge on gun safety. Nicole, thank you so much. You never point a gun, loaded or not, at a person unless you plan to shoot. Keep your finger off the trigger and out of the trigger well unless you plan to shoot. Simple. I completely agree with you. And I guarantee you that Alec Baldwin was told this many times. Many times. Of all the times that he's done a movie where he holds a gun, I mean, this guy, dude, how old is the movie The Getaway, the one that I mentioned earlier? That movie alone, they didn't even show that. But that movie alone, where he's firing guns all through that movie alone is 30 years old. More than 30 years old. It's like 32 years old. So, you know what I mean? He knows gun safety. He knows the importance of gun safety. There's absolutely no excuse why what took place took place. So therefore, yes, he needs to be held accountable. Do I think he's malicious? No. But again, hence the involuntary manslaughter charge. That's why it's not a murder charge. No, Twisted Tennessee. They don't go to a gun range to practice shooting blanks. They go to a gun range to fucking to learn how to handle a gun properly. That's what you go to a gun range for. Yeah, to practice shooting, but you're also practicing handling a gun properly. If you go to a gun range, just one random lick that you just go and show up to because you just want to fire off a few rounds, right? Like, everyone is practicing gun safety. Everyone is pointing their gun to the ground. No one is waving a gun around. Even if it's empty, nobody is doing that. Everyone there at the gun range knows there's an etiquette. That etiquette is basic safety. So just pointing the gun down to the floor at all times and keeping your finger out of the trigger well, basic gun safety. Yeah, I don't understand that either, Bonnie Lambert. His story was very, very inconsistent. But it doesn't, it's what it does, it doesn't prove that he intentionally shot anybody in any way, shape, or form. It doesn't even imply it. What it does is it shows that he just doesn't care, which is why I think that he needs that involuntary manslaughter charge. He was careless. He did not give a shit about anyone's safety within his immediate environment, which is why he needs to be held accountable. And for that specifically, nothing else, but simply that specifically. He was careless and did not think of the safety of those around him, and someone died. He needs to be held accountable for that. And I think that the involuntary manslaughter charge is absolutely appropriate. So that's my opinion on it, guys. I'm going to wrap this up. I love you guys very, very much. I appreciate all your support. Do me a favor, hit the like on your way out. If you, if you liked it. I gotta say, guys, I really appreciate everyone here being respectful towards each other. I know this is a sensitive subject for a lot of folks. And I'm really, really grateful that I have a community to where we can actually have a civil conversation about something so controversial. So thank you guys for that. I really, really appreciate it. I love you guys very much, and we will do this again very soon, my friends.